I gotta make sure that folks can hear me. All right. Let me go live on Instagram so that they can also join us. That's cool. All right. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Let me make sure that I share this. Copy. Okay. All right. Hi, welcome. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, good people. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for coming in. Uh, Today is going to be fun. It's going to be really fun. I'm just making sure that I am sharing the YouTube link. We are on YouTube, so I'm going to put this in the IG chat as well because sometimes people prefer to be on YouTube. Can you all hear me? Somebody said thank you. I appreciate that. That's beautiful. So I'm gonna put that here and I'm gonna pin it. All right. So let's make sure that that's there. We are gonna be discussing the Harris-Walz policy. And I think it's really the Democratic Party's their policy. So that's what we're gonna do. All right. Let's see. All right, so I am gonna save this. I know people are often out and about. So thank you for buying a badge. I appreciate you. If you are on Instagram, I switched it now because I'm not sharing the screen. So it's better like when I'm on Instagram, people are able to buy badges. If I try to stream it from StreamYard, it's like whatever. Let me make sure the comments are on on YouTube because I gotta make sure that you all can join in the damn chat, right? That's important. If anybody is on the YouTube and can let me know that they can see that they're able to join the chat, that would be great because I think I messed up on this. Wait, let's save that. All right, so let's get into it. This will be available for replay. I don't know if I'm gonna have it, if I'm gonna save it on Instagram, I might. But I definitely have it on YouTube. All right, so we are going to get into this policy stuff. So if you are following on YouTube, I am going to share my screen because I do think that you all should know what the policies are. Here we go. Where do I have that saved? The final one. Here we go. Final master platform. Okay. So you should all be able to, let's see, let's pull this in. You all can see this, right? So the Democratic Party does have its own, its platform. Yay, because for a while, folks were saying, hey, why don't you have a policy, right? So let's go through it. All right, so let's try this. All right. They did a convention land acknowledgement, which is nonsensical considering everything that they do. Hey, what's up? You see the chat, Doc? Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I thought the land acknowledgement, I appreciate it when it's done with sincerity. I don't trust the Democratic National Party. I don't trust the Democratic Party. I don't trust the DNC. I don't trust none of you motherfuckers. So if you are new to me and you want to know why I may pick apart certain things or whatever, I don't trust none of this shit. Okay. Preamble. All right. So chapter 1 is growing our economy from the bottom up, middle out. Chapter 2 is rewording work, not wealth. And you all know how I feel. Thank you for buying a badge, y'all. Y'all know how I feel about the fact that they only talk about people being in the middle class. Like, they don't talk about it. They be like, you too can be wealthy. Absolutely not. They are not going to sell anyone those lies. I just want to make that very clear. Where's my cursor? Chapter 3, lowering costs, and that includes healthcare, childcare, gas, all that stuff. Have y'all noticed that gas has been going down as we get closer to the election? I hope you're paying attention. It's my favorite time of year. All right. Chapter 4, tackling climate crisis. Some people were saying that there was not enough focus on the climate crisis at the DNC. Admittedly, everyone, I did not watch everything at the DNC. I did not go, see any feeds from their meetings, but I do know it is a convention, so people get together. In fact, the convention used to be where they would select the candidate, but in 1972 they started having primaries, and so the voters they select the presidential candidate. That wasn't always the case. I don't know how many people don't know that. All right. Chapter 5 is protecting communities and tackling the scourge of gun violence, right? Gun safety, policing. We're definitely going to go to the policing. I'm not going to go through all this. Y'all know this is very much like Project 2025. When I went through, I'm going to extract some of the important parts, right? Okay. Chapter 6, strengthening democracy, protecting freedoms, and advancing equity. There is no democracy, so I don't know what y'all are strengthening, but I hear your point. Chapter 7, and they list everybody. Judges are first. Voting rights, stopping the influence of special interests, like APAC. Reproductive freedom, women's rights, racial equality, LGBTQI+, disability, tribal nations, combating hate and protecting freedom of religion, all this stuff, right? Chapter 7 is securing the border and fixing the broken immigration system. Okay. We'll tap on that because the policy that they've been pushing is actually Republican and it's very interesting. Advancing the president's unity agenda, which is really interesting because under that, it says beating the opioid epidemic, investing in mental health, protecting kids online, strengthening America's data privacy, and promoting competition, ending cancer as we know it, meeting our nation's sacred obligation to veterans and military families. All of that is under what they're calling advancing the president's unity agenda. Okay, and chapter 9 is about the foreign policy. So I want to start with chapter 1. And the reason why I want to start with chapter 1 is because she mentioned a word that bothered me. And I don't think that it would bother the average person who's thinking about this, because I have worked in neighborhood revitalization. I was like, oh my gosh. Shout out to everybody on Instagram. If you are on Instagram, you can join us on YouTube. You can put your comments in. It's so much easier for me to read your comments when you're on YouTube with us. I'm not going to tell you not to, stay on Instagram. It's fine. I'm just saying that if you wanted a better viewing experience, it might be there. I appreciate it. All right, so let's get into chapter 1. They've added nearly 16 million jobs, not only recovering from it, but adding 6.3 million more. We got that. Okay, infrastructure. There's a whole thing on infrastructure. And they say we can't have the best economy in the world if we don't have the best infrastructure. And so one of the things that has always troubled me about the Democrats is their focus on America first. But they used to be subtle with it. And since we've been moving to the right? And I just want to make sure everybody is very clear that Kamala Harris is right of the Obama-Biden agenda. I just want to make sure, full stop, everybody knows that, right? We're working on the same page, right? Just making sure. Okay. Best economy in the world. So here's the thing. Y'all know China exists, right? Whatever. Let's see. They're talking about infrastructure. So I don't see anything much in here. Okay. So they're talking about how they can't have the best economy, blah, blah, blah. They talk about what Trump did, blah, blah, blah. They're saying that bipartisan infrastructure law is breaking ground on 57,000 projects. We've added 80,000 megawatts of new clean power. The projects don't just build infrastructure, they create hundreds of thousands of good jobs for American workers. What I get out of this section is we ain't really need to change shit. We're going to keep doing what we've been doing. Now, if somebody else reads this differently, let me know. because basically they're telling us what they're doing. We're replacing every toxic lead pipe, blah, 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 within a decade, right? Okay, so that every child could turn on a faucet at home or at school and drink clean water without risking cancer or brain damage. But guess what? When you start focusing on children, and I know that they do it for empathetic reasons, you forget that one, children don't pay taxes, so you're not beholden to them necessarily. Um, and just talk about everybody. Nobody wants to drink from a lead pipe, right? Okay, but there's nothing in here that says, okay, so we are then going to do this thing differently. So basically, I guess they like their infrastructure plan and they're going to keep going with it. Manufacturing, under President Biden, we've boosted blah, 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 blah. Like, this is really, I don't like this. This is really just talking about what Biden has been doing. I'm not, under his leadership will continue support. Oh, so this is old. This is old. Okay, well, I don't want to read that. Let's find the other thing. Let me get to what I was going to talk about, because why not? This shit is old, right? Like, fuck, like nobody cares about this. All right, so Kamala Harris used the word opportunity, right? Let's actually look that up. Kamala Harris, opportunity. The opportunity economy. Okay. So some of you may not know, but President Obama had this whole thing. It's called the Promise Initiative, and what the Promise Initiative was doing was, identifying. Actually, let me share that one instead. Since I'm talking that way, it was identifying areas in the country where, here we go, Promise zones, where there was a lot of like not good stuff happening, right? And so this was back, we're talking 2014, 2015, the Promise Zone Initiative. The federal government will work strategically with local leaders to boost economic activity and Georgia and job growth, right? So we're talking Atlanta, Georgia, Evansville, Indiana, Nashville, Tennessee, Roosevelt Roads, Puerto Rico, San Diego, South Los Angeles, all these different places, right? Spokane Tribe of Indians in Washington, right? And then the above designated promise zones joined 13 others that were designated in 2014 and 2015. Camden, New Jersey. We still waiting for that promise to be fulfilled. Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. If anybody is in these regions, please let me know if you saw the benefits of the promise zones. Hartford, Connecticut, I remember because I was doing work up in that area as well. It's very, very high poverty up there. And a lot of people don't realize that. Indianapolis, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Philadelphia. And this is why I was paying attention to this, because I was moving to Philadelphia to do some of this work. Pine Ridge, etc. So they identified these communities as places for development, investment, supporting local businesses, creating business industries and things like that, working on the schools, basically pouring money into these zones, right? Because the idea is that they show promise. If we invest in them, we are going to help pull them up, because we've identified them as some of the worst, like economically disenfranchised areas in the country. Smart, right? It was great. However, when Donald Trump came along, the Republicans took a similar idea, right? So this idea that we're going to find some places that are struggling and we're going to call them opportunity zones. Okay. So the opportunity zones are economically distressed communities defined by individual census tract, nominated by America's governors and certified by the U.S. Secretary of Treasury. Opportunity zones may be eligible for preferential tax treatment. There are 8,764 opportunity zones in the United States, many of which have experienced a lack of investment for decades. The Opportunity Zones Initiative is not a top-down government program from Washington, but an incentive to spur private and public investment in America's underserved communities. Does anybody want to tell me what they think the difference was between these programs and how they were rolled out and how they ended up having an impact on the American people? First of all, were any of you aware of this? Did anybody know about this? Well, it went from the government offering the support to relying on the local people and the local cities and the local tax dollars, right? So anybody want to think about why it might be problematic to designate that these areas have to rely on local support? Well, if they hadn't, if they had that support, they wouldn't be so disenfranchised. If the local people could afford to do this themselves, they wouldn't need any like boost from the government. Problem with the Republicans is that they claim to be anti-big government, and so they really believe that if there are ills in society, which sometimes they doubt, they can be fixed by churches, right? They really believe, like, they say faith-based, but they mean churches. They believe that the churches are the ones who should be responsible for taking care of the poor, the sick, the elderly, and things like that. Never mind that, we have people who are, all types of religions, don't necessarily participate in church stuff. That's what they believe. They also believe that the money should come locally, which is why we continue to have this kind of stratification, this caste system in which if your local taxes are high and people pay a lot of taxes, you get more money. It's stupid. Promise zones show promise. Opportunity zones did not work. Did not work. Oh, this was also run by Ben Carson. Like, I just want you to know this was run by Ben Carson, the doctor, the medical doctor. Mr. Gifted Hands was in charge of housing and urban development because he was Black. Let's just go back to that. That the only reason that Ben Carson was named the head of HUD is because the Republicans equate HUD with poverty and Black people. Never mind, way more white people benefit from HUD monies, but that's what they associate. So they put the one Black guy, the one smart Black guy that they know. They couldn't trust Herman Cain, and he ended up dying anyway. They put the one Black person with some advanced degree that they knew and put him in charge of it. All right, so they went through, they were talking about safe neighborhoods. They were talking about entrepreneurship. They were talking about, all this kind of stuff. None of it really worked. It didn't, right? It didn't. So when Kamala Harris talks about opportunity economy, in my opinion, that was a choice. And in my opinion, I could be 100% wrong. I'm okay with that. But in my opinion, my thoughts, that the use of opportunity recalls Trump's opportunity zones. And so while their policies may be more like Obama's promise zones, the language of opportunity zone pulls that in and could possibly sway people, which is a big part of the issue, right? All right, so what I ended up doing was I was kind of going through and looking at the policy, trying to find the policies that the Democrats had. What I was reading from was actually like their final master platform, and it still was about Joe Biden. So already we know that the Dems are they're not doing what they need to do. Oh, okay, but let's see what else I found. Why is my computer is freezing up a little bit, so if you're on YouTube, I apologize for that. There's some stuff going on here. Okay, so while her speech didn't give specific details, Harris pledged to cover To lower the cost of living for struggling Americans, especially Black and Brown communities, by limiting costs of housing, food, and prescription drugs. So I just want to remind everybody that in a capitalist society, the government is not going to be able to control um, the price of food and housing outside of government housing. So I think for me, some of you don't know this. I don't, and you should know this if you paid attention to me. I was a social worker who worked in the housing sector for nearly 18 years. Housing, neighborhood development, all that kind of stuff for nearly 18 years. Um, I know that the president can't stop people from charging whatever the hell they want to charge for their homes to sell them or to rent their apartments. They can't unless they decide to penalize people. If they decide to raise taxes, if there is a fine that they place on people who are trying to, like, say you're a landlord and you've got 10 units and the fair market, whatever the hell that is, if the fair market value for each of those apartments is $1,200 a month, and you charge $1,800 a month, you're basically charging 50% more than the market price. They could put a fine if you charge more than 30% of the market price, right? They could put a fine. That's government overreach. Oh, but they could do that if they wanted to. Or they could force you as a business owner to pay higher business taxes if that's something that you do. They could also leave it the way it is and incentivize you to lower the price by giving you a tax break, which again, if you're getting a tax break, how is that helping the economy? It's less taxes that you're paying because you decided to, you charge the fair market price. I'm only saying this because I want people to know she can't do nothing about it. If they could do something about the lowering the cost of food, they would have done it by now, wouldn't they? Am I alone in this? Am I tripping? Because Joe Biden's still the president, and Kamala Harris has been the vice president for almost 4 years now. The price of food has been high for almost 4 years now. We know that, what was it, 1978, that the cost of everything went up during that wild inflation, and they said it was going to come back down, and it never did. That's happening again. Again, if they were able to do something about this, they would have done it by now. But they know that Americans are hurting, and they know that hearing these things makes people optimistic, and they're like, well, if there's a chance for you to be able to do this, I want to support you, and I just want people to know that they can't do that, right? They say she also promised to tackle corporate price gouging, much as she did it as Attorney General of California in the aftermath of the state's housing crisis. You can do more on a local level to address these things than you can as a president, and I think that that's something that people know. The temporary childhood tax credit expired in 2021. Walz had his own version in this credit. Say in 2023, all Minnesota taxpayers with children were able to receive $17.50 per qualifying child, with no limit on the number of children claimed, right, which puts him at left of her. And they said 400,000 children benefited from that, right? So they could do something like that, but Harris is talking about giving $6,000 to people with newborns. That's the only thing she's actually like really said concrete around this whole money for babies thing. And I'm going to talk about it flippantly like this because I need you to understand what is happening here. Okay. The United States is facing a tremendous crisis, an economic crisis, and it is the economic crisis of people not having kids. Hold on a second, because this is going to get fun. Because you all are not having enough children. I should clarify, because you white women are not having enough children. We are rapidly moving into a fascist state because the economy cannot survive. You all deciding not to have children. So either you get to having children, or we are going to see more dramatic and drastic economic policy related to families and children and childbirth. Okay, so right now they're buying babies for $6,000 each. You don't like how that sounds, but I understand social engineering. I understand social welfare. I understand what goes on with all of this. Remember, I think I said this before, I'll say it again. You don't get a benefit for being married, right? You get a penalty for being single. You don't get a benefit for having children, right? 1750 per child per year is absolutely nothing. Hear me again when I say $1,750 per child per year is nothing. Okay. So it's an insult, but you are not being rewarded with a tax credit for having children. You're being penalized as a childless person for not having children. So you are going to pay more taxes for being single. You're going to pay more taxes for having no children. You're going to pay more taxes for not buying a house. You're going to pay more taxes for all these different things. You all have to start looking at our tax code like that, not as a benefit, right? But because remember, this is all our money already. We already earned this money. We're giving it back to the government for them to give it right back to us. Sometimes when I say things like that, people get a little, they're like, "Oh my God, this is how we have to think about these things, right? You go to work, you earn money. The government says you have to pay a certain amount of it to them so that they can use it for the country's needs, right? Your locals use it for local needs, the country needs, the like $18 billion that we just sent to Israel in military aid so that they could help, Israel extinguish the Palestinian people. That came out of your check, right? And so they're saying, well, we'll give you a little bit of what you already earned. We'll give that back to you if you live according to our social plan and our economic social plan. And our economy cannot survive you all not having children. So therefore, we're going to offer you now $6,000 per baby. At the same time, lying to you about codifying Roe v. Wade, which is another thing she can't do. We'll get to that in a second. I, a student of how eugenics works and all those wonderful things. And if you, please go check out, I posted this link before on my St. Clopas Summer School YouTube page. I have a class called What It Means to Be Black. I kind of tap into a lot of this stuff. They're paying you $6,000 to have a baby. We've never seen anything like this before. Okay. $6,000 a year. Like somebody said, it's still $500 a month. You're getting $500 per month for the first year of your child's life. Other countries already do this, right? Other countries have been providing parents with material and monetary and social and health supports for their children, right? Visiting nurses, take-home boxes, parenting classes, money in the hand, not via tax credit, money in the hand. The countries have been doing this, right? Why we have one of the highest, infant mortality rates in the world, right? Even though we have the so-called best economy and we're supposed to be a superpower, we have out of all of the so-called top nations, we have the highest infant mortality rate because we don't actually do anything to support, these children. Now, she's going to give $6,000 for you to have a baby. If you don't understand what that is, I don't know how I can make it more clear for you. First of all, it's fucking insane. Like, it's absolutely fucking insane. Second of all, it slides us into natalism. Okay. You know who has a natalist agenda? The Republicans, particularly this clown JD Vance. Okay? They are straight up natalists. The natalism is why they're anti-abortion. They're anti-abortion not because they give a shit about human beings, but because they understand the American economy relies on people continuing to reproduce. Point blank, period. So now that the Democrats, under the leadership now of Kamala Harris, who is right of center, don't ever think that this woman is progressive. And I don't know why you all keep pretending and perpetuating that lie. It's nonsense. And we don't do nonsense here on Political Theater with Dr. T. So now you have somebody who is potentially going to be the first woman president, the first Black woman president, first Indian woman president, first South Asian person. She's buying babies like a goddamn Republican. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. Also, so let's move that into the Roe v. Wade, right? So what is the policy? What is the thing that she has been saying? What did she say at her final, her speech and all the stump speeches and everything that she's been saying? She says, if Congress sends me a bill, I'll sign it. She's changed the language to when, right? So now she says, when Congress sends me a bill, I'll sign it. So essentially what she's saying is, I can't do this Roe v. Wade abortion thing without you all. And if you all don't elect the right people, then it's your fault. It's not mine. She has completely detached herself from the reproductive rights thing. And I don't know if y'all have noticed that, if y'all have caught that. Well, one is because she understands that there's nothing she can do about it, right? The Supreme Court is not going to change. If she wins and say, any of the conservatives, die, then there's a chance, right? None of them are leaving. The oldest one is Clarence Thomas. I think he's 75. Everybody else is young. Trump selected them because they were young. Kavanaugh, Comey Barrett, and that other one. They were selected because they're young, right? So if she's president, unless somebody dies, she's not appointing any Supreme Court justices. And they've been using this as a talking point. And it really bothers me because, again, I don't like people playing in our faces and lying in our faces. Don't tell the people that the Supreme Court is so important and who you elect is going to determine the future of the Supreme Court when she's not going to be able to do anything to change it. So again, they're lying. And that's not cool. I don't do well with people lying like that. And so if Trump wins, he too cannot change the Supreme Court. If any of his people resign, he'll just replace them with one of others. But Ketanji Brown Jackson's not going anywhere. Sonia Sotomayor is not going anywhere. Like, we're not losing anybody on our side. They're not going anywhere. If Trump is president, they're not going anywhere either. So the Supreme Court's not going to change. So if the Supreme Court doesn't change, all this Roe talk, it's just fluff. There's nothing she can do about it. If she tries to executive order, they will yeet it out. If she says, she keeps saying this shit about if you put it on my if you put it on my desk, if they pass a thing, you put it. So what that means is that, okay, we have to make sure that they have a supermajority. Well, that goes to you all. And so it's very easy to say that and then to come back later and say, well, you guys in the midterms, you didn't pick the right people, so we couldn't do it. I kind of feel like Obama tried that shit on us. All right. So just so you know, they're not going to be able to do much about reproductive rights. That's why they stick to the fear mongering about Trump, because they know that they don't have a real plan to do anything. If you watched the other night when we were watching the final night and why I was like screaming so much, and it's because, I am somebody who is a survivor of emotional abuse and things like that. And gaslighting is extremely triggering for me. Like, I lose my shit. And so they were gaslighting the fuck out of us. Right? Okay. So what else we got? They want to pass the John Lewis Voting Right Advancement Act. And let's see, the legislation would revive some of the protections of the landmark Voting Rights Act of 1965 that have been eroded over the past decade. including the requirement that certain jurisdictions receive federal approval before changing their voting laws or procedures. So again, that is nothing new. It is something they've already been working on. So it's not really coming from her. Let's see. Um, Not much on the unions. They support the CHIPS and Science Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. That was from Biden Harris. So we're not getting anything new. Ooh, wait, did the Teamsters finally endorse? Because I know they've been holding out. Um, I know the guy from the Teamsters spoke at the RNC, but they have a Black caucus and they haven't endorsed her. Okay, cool. So the campaign is going to build on the Biden administration's labor-friendly initiative, like supporting the right to organize. Again, nothing new, nothing new, nothing. Oh, tax on tips. Okay, so Donald Trump came out and said that he was going to. No, they don't. They dropped a Democratic policy, which is written in the words of Biden, as though he was. Somebody asked, "Did they finally drop their policy plan?" No, nothing new. I'm going based on what we understand and what has been said, right? So Trump said that he had a plan to not tax the tips, right? So she comes out then and says she throws that in. None of her stump speeches up until that point mentioned anything about their plan to not tax tips. After he said it, then she also says it. So it gives the sense that they're playing catch up, which is never a good idea. And so I was going through, just so if you're new and if you're just coming in, I was going through the DNC platform, and it is available online, but it was focusing so much like on Biden, like they hadn't adjusted it to Harris, which really sucks. So Democrats will keep fighting to pass the Protecting the Right to Organize, the PRO Act, to give everyone the right to organize for better pay, benefits, and working conditions and stuff. Again, it's not new. So much of this saying is that we're going to continue to do the things that we've been doing. We're going to continue to do the things that we have been doing. So 3 new things I've mentioned so far: the opportunity the opportunity talk, the $6,000 to have a newborn, and the no taxing on the tips. Those are 3 things that are different, maybe. Here we go. At the same time, we're pushing to guarantee workers the pay, benefits, and protections they deserve as well. We passed the Butch-Lewis Act, keeping over 2 million people's hard-earned pension solvent. We also raised the minimum wage for federal contractors to $17.20 an hour, and we'll keep pushing Congress to increase it to at least $15 for all Americans. All right, pop quiz. Who's in the chat? Who knows this? I'm going to look it up. When was the last time the minimum wage was increased? I think I know it, but I'm just going to double check. Minimum wage increases. Because it's $7.25 still. I don't want it by state. Let's see. It was 2007. So it's 2024. What's 24 minus 7? It's 17 years. The minimum wage has been $7.25 since 2007. Oh, wait, it was effective 2009. Correct. You're right, because $5.85 was 2007. $6.55 was effective 2008, and $7.25 was 2009. And let us be reminded that 2008 and 2009 were the housing crisis, and when Obama bailed out all the automobile industries and gave them all the millions of our tax dollars because they couldn't run their businesses. Because a handful of white men tried to short the stock system and they caused a housing crash, and and Bush was giving some approving people for subprime mortgages and were made them lower the credit rating to 500 so that poor people and people with bad credit could afford housings and nobody could keep it because nobody could afford it because and then the housing crisis and so we've had the same minimum wage since the housing crisis. I just okay. So yeah, no. So I'm just I'm sorry. I'm an asshole. But if you're a federal contractor, you get 17.20 an hour. They've done nothing. Okay, I just want to point out that they've been in office for 4 years. Why didn't they raise the minimum wage then? Oh, because Congress has to do it. And Congress has never been more split than it has now since the Civil War. That's why you can't get. Okay, just so again, if you want change to happen, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz rely on the midterms, which means for the first 2 years, they're not going to be able to do shit. But they're going to rely on you for the midterms. And if you, voter, and you voters who generally don't really turn out for local elections, if you don't turn out for the midterms and they don't get the supermajority that they need, they're going to blame you. They're going to fucking play in your face. Okay. Um, Small businesses. They invested 12 billion, a record 12 billion in community developed finance institutions to support small business and growth across low income communities. They also sent $12 billion in military aid to Israel so they could continue to eradicate the Palestinian people. I just imagine if they took that $12 billion and invested it in this and doubled that to $24 billion. Imagine what they could have done with that. Trump still puts Wall Street before mainstream. So does the Democratic Party. Don't let them lie to you. I have a meme now on TikTok and Instagram of Prince singing. I said, this whole, all of you who think that you're going to hold them accountable after the election. And it's like, no, you don't have the money. And you're not like the other guys that they hang around, the lobbyists and the people with the real money and the people who tell them what they need to do and control them. And not just the president, right? But the people that you also elect into your local offices to represent you in Congress, whether it's in the House or whether it is in the Senate. They also are paid for. So you and your little $5 or your little $25 or even your $1,000 that you sent to the Harris Walz campaign, it means nothing. However, it creates buy-in and it convinces us all that we are playing a part in this election and we're playing a part in getting them elected. When really, once they get elected, the people they have to answer to are the corporations and the lobbyists and all the people that paid them a lot of money behind closed doors to do what they want them to do. Y'all understand that's how the United States government works, right? I'm not telling you anything new, correct? Correct? Okay. Just making sure. What's up? If you're in the chat, I see some folks in YouTube. Check in. Let me know where you're at. If you're on Instagram and you still haven't come on over to YouTube, Feminista Jones, that's fine. I appreciate it. For those of you that have bought badges for me on Instagram, I really appreciate it. And as you see, I do have my my digital wallet on my screen for those who are watching on YouTube. Okay, now fighting poverty. This one is near and dear to me. So much of the language is will work too. And that's smart. That's what they have to say. They can't say we will do anything because they're not going to be able to do anything like that. They can't make these unilateral decisions. And even if they were to use executive orders, those things would totally get knocked out by the Congress. They'll come back. Everybody will, the Supreme Court will be like, nah, fuck you. And that's it. So they said, now it's time to finish the job. Democrats know that most folks fundamentally want the same things, not a handout, but a fair shot. Actually, we do want handouts. You owe us. Give us money. Give everybody money. A universal basic income would be great. We've already seen how it works on the local and smaller scales. If everybody gets a universal basic income, it's all great. A girl can dream, right? A girl can dream. No, okay. All right, let's see what else they say. Why is my thing moving slow? They said we'll work to finally raise the federal minimum wage to at least 15 an hour. We'll fight for paid leave, better health care and stuff. So here's the thing. The United States still does not have federally mandated paid leave, family leave. So if you have a child, if you give birth, that they're going to give you $6,000 for. They're going to give you $6,000, but they have done nothing to make sure that you can get more than 3 days off from work without losing money. Again, you've been in office for 4 years. 4 years. Why didn't you all push harder to make sure that families can get paid leave, like federally mandated paid leave? So all this language, and that part of why I kind of like dismissively left this earlier, because none of this is a plan. All of this is just talking about what we already been doing and what we would like to do, but we're only going to be able to do it if Congress agrees. That's not a policy platform. It's not. They're negotiating, they're trying to negotiate with Medicare. We know that. They keep talking about the $35 insulin for seniors. Somebody at the DNC actually said, and we look forward to it being available for everyone. Anybody catch that? It's just like, okay. They keep talking about that $35 insulin cap because that is the only thing that they did in the last 4 years, right? In terms of this kind of healthcare stuff. Healthcare costs continue to rise. Private health insurance companies continue to crack down. I actually just got a bill for that saying that I owe $300 for a preventative wellness visit for my kid. The same exact exam last year was completely free. Now they're saying I owe a $300 payment towards it. So, these things happen. Let's see, one drug. Yes, somebody said one damn drug. And they've been running it to the ground. Every speech that they have been running it to the ground. We got seniors $35 for insulin. Okay. Shout out to the seniors because you don't give a shit about them any other way. So at least you could do that, right? Okay. Cutting taxes for working families. Okay. Democrats will protect everyone earning less than $400,000 a year from any tax increase. And we will fight to protect and expand other tax benefits for working people and families with children. So if you do not work and you are a family that does not have children, you are not included in this. That's millions upon millions upon millions of Americans. And so what the Dems continue to do, and Bernie Sanders was guilty of this too, this whole nobody who works 40 hours a week should, be hungry. If you work 40 hours a week, you should be able to afford housing. You shouldn't have to work 40 hours a week to have a roof over your head and food in your stomach. That's actually a progressive stance. So here they're saying, they're talking about what they did during the pandemic. Republicans. And Biden proposed a $10,000 tax credit for first-time home buyers and people selling their first homes to help reduce the housing costs for working families. Let me just break that down really quickly why that's bullshit and why it doesn't really do anything. Please don't fall for the nonsense. I bought my home in 2021. I got a 2.24 mortgage rate. I'm not leaving this house for a long time. And it is, it could be considered a starter home or whatever. I like it. It works for me. My kid's about to go to college. It's enough house for me. But why would I give up a 2.24 mortgage rate for your little $10,000, which is not going to help me put a down payment on another house, right? And over time, I'm going to get a rate that's about 6 or 7%. So I'm already going to be paying a rate that's like 3 times higher than the one I already got, which means I'm eventually going to pay more money on my taxes. So, that $10,000 ain't nothing. But again, people hear numbers like that and they're like, yeah, that's nice. We'll take it. No. And it didn't work, right? Because people are not selling their homes. So they still have this crisis. So, but there's nothing in here that's saying that Harris is going to do something different. And I don't know if it's somebody, if I missed it, if you all saw it, if y'all saw that they proposed something else, please let me know. I'm just going with this one that they dropped from the DNC, that they didn't bother to update. You know, with all the interns that they have in the White House, they didn't bother to edit this to change it to Harris. That's not weird to y'all? Sorry, my AirPod fell out. That's not weird to y'all? It's not that long of a document. ChatGPT could have done that. Um, we will also keep upping the pressure on wealthy and corporate tax cheats that fail to pay what they owe. We've seen that in the last few years, the IRS has been increasingly targeting the working class and the middle class in their attempts to collect tax debt. They're actually not going after the wealthy. But this idea of upping the pressure, all this language, we will pressure them, we will encourage them, we will ask them, we will wait for them to do these things. None of this is a hardcore or concrete plan. So what are we doing? Let's get to the lowering costs. Keep talking about the pandemic. No, nothing there in their policy saying that they're going to do anything. Healthcare. Keep working to grow the health. Okay. No, no new plan. No, there's no new plan there. Nothing for healthcare. Um, they took on big pharma, capped the price of insulin 35 for 4 million seniors. So 4 million seniors using Medicare got $35 insulin. There's 333 million people in the United States. Why do they keep talking about something that not even 10%? Barely 1% of the population. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna, what do I know? No. Requiring drug makers that raise prices faster than the inflation to pay the difference back to Medicare, which will then pass savings on to the consumers. No, they won't. That's a very that is a Reaganomic. That's Reaganomics. Does any like whenever you hear them say, "Oh, if we do this with the corporations, they'll pass the savings on." That is 100% Reaganomics, trickle down economy. There is absolutely no room for that language in the administrator, in the like the official administrative. This is what we're going to do policy type stuff. There's no room for that. Um, Someone should be fired for not having that platform during the convention, the time when most Americans would be looking for it and find a place that could have done that. Exactly. Exactly. So the inaccessibility of their policy plans has been a big issue. Then they go on to child care, home care, paid leave during the pandemic. Rescue, this is what we did, $12.50 a child, blah, blah, blah. We want to bring that back. $12.50 a child. Once again, we'll remind people that is nothing. It was nice in the moment because a lot of people were losing work at the time. And so it felt like, wow, I really needed, like, honestly, that $12.50 probably, saved a lot of people, not even gonna lie about that. Right. It's still nothing. We're not in a pandemic anymore. Well, we are. People are still dying. We're having another surge and they just had a super spreader event. So, Democrats are only part of the plan, only party with a plan to expand access to care. That's your plan, but you're not telling us how you're going to do it. And then they go back to talking about Trump and how they want to cut Head Start and all these other things. So here's what a policy plan would look like. And this is part of where my frustration comes in. Y'all mind if I take a hit off my stuff? Okay. Here's where I get frustrated. Project 2025 was released how long ago, y'all? How long have we been talking about that? It's been a few months now, right? I think I did my thing a couple of months ago. I think it was mid-June that I did my Project 2025 stuff, right? I could be wrong. Somebody go fact check me. That's more than enough time to literally go through each thing and say, this is what we will do instead of this. So, for example, Let's see. From day one, President Biden has pushed to do more, but he's had 4 years and has not done. Oh, he expanded the military parental leave. So all active duty new parent service members can take 12 weeks. That's beautiful. That should be the standard for everyone. So the plan will create America's first full national paid family and medical leave program, guaranteeing every American worker up to 12 weeks of paid time off to care for a new child or a loved one to recover from an illness in case of domestic violence or military deployment. Okay. That's the military. That is beautiful. We want that. Shout out to the service people that are going to benefit from that. Everyone needs that. And there's absolutely no reason why the Democrats can't explain, can explain why they have not made that their platform. Full for everyone. For everyone. Day one. You know, when they always talk about day one, Trump was like, day one, I'm going to be a dictator. Kamala Harris should be day one. Executive order. We are going to write in and make sure that families get 12 weeks of paid leave. It's not hard. There's a whole section on gas and groceries. I just want to remind everybody watching, there's nothing that she could do about the cost of groceries. I don't actually care what she says. There's nothing that she could do. Oh, you said it's been out since March, Project 2025. Oh, so they've had since March to come up with a counter plan for each thing that they were talking about. See, if you want to have a policy platform, you want to make sure that that what you're saying is not just about this is what we did already and this is what Trump is planning to do, and then you leave the gap. And that gap is supposed to be filled with this is what we will do. I'm not tripping, right? Am I tripping? Y'all family. I got Instagram over here. I got YouTube over here. We family now. Am I tripping for thinking that at the bare minimum, the Democrats should have released a paper, a statement, a report like this that countered those things? When they said, I just read it too, when they say that the Trump plans to get rid of Head Start, your response should be, we will not let that happen. Day one, we will make sure that Head Start is protected. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. And throughout this whole thing, the language is they are working on. No promises, no guarantees. And I get it. Because you don't want to get caught out there like President Obama, who promised us the goddamn world. Okay? He did. He promised us the goddamn world. You're making a good point. Instagram, you can't see this, but it says they need to pull in Elizabeth Warren and get those plans together. And listen, I was a Elizabeth Warren surrogate. I really appreciate it. And I caught a lot of hell. For people, saying, why are you supporting that white woman? So I like people with plans. I like people who can articulate what they are going to do. I like people who can sit there and say, okay, well, X is X and Y is Y, and here's why I'm going to make Z happen, and here's exactly how I'm going to do it. I'm going to do A, B, C, and this is what it's going to look like. This is what the result's going to be. That works for me. I don't know about y'all. You know what I'm saying? You say you've been waiting for Project 2025 clap back for a minute. They don't have it in them to clap back because they are actually moving right. So I just want everybody to know all of the politics are moving to the right. So the Republicans are moving to the extreme right. Again, they talk a lot about MAGA. This started with the Tea Party, okay? Paul Ryan and the Tea Party, Sarah Palin and the Tea Party. This is where a lot of this all began. And they needed somebody to rev it up a little bit. And so that's why they got this fool Trump, because he gives them permission to be ignorant because he's ignorant. I hope y'all saw that for what it is. They needed to put somebody ridiculous, somebody obscene, somebody who they knew was going to say all these ridiculous things that they know they can't say publicly. And he could say it and be their fall guy and get to bring the Klan out, right? They needed somebody to bring the Klan out. They needed somebody to pull the racists and the xenophobes out of their closets and from underneath those hoods to show themselves, right? And they could put red hats on now. And so that's how MAGA exists. MAGA is an extension of the Tea Party, which was already their fringe. And so the Republicans are allowing, I know Paul Ryan is sitting somewhere like, Paul Ryan right now got to be feeling like the dude that got the Asian folks to get rid of affirmative action. He got to be like, thanks for doing my work for me. Good looking out. It's got to be like that right now, right? So they're moving to the right, and I'm pointing that way because you guys are looking. Is that right? Is that right? This is right. Okay, this is right. Okay, I'm mirrored. I'm like, am I mirrored? This is moving to the right, but the Democrats are also moving to the right. Okay, and some of the language that we heard specifically related to law and order and crime and punishment. And we're going to get there in like 2 seconds. Stick with me, I promise. Welcome if you're just coming in on Instagram. You can join us over on YouTube. If you are on Instagram, I do appreciate those of you that have bought badges. You're supporting me. I appreciate it. There's also the Cash App there, the Venmo, Fem Jones on both. Stuff if you're on YouTube is a better watching experience. We do have a chat going over here, and we have our community over here, so definitely come and join us. But you don't have to. If you want to stay on Instagram, we've got community over there as well. That's why I'm looking two different places. All right, just want to welcome everybody here. No, that's true. Yeah, they do. People do give me. She said people give you hell for saying the sky is blue. No, they really do. They really do. I said the United States is more diverse than the UK, and they've been trying to cancel me all day. Anyway, so where are we now? Okay, housing. Nothing about the housing is anything they're going to do. The only thing I want to hear from them for housing is that they are going to clean up the subsidized housing processes, that they're going to make sure that people who are on Social Security, if they disability, if they do get a job, that they do not lose their housing benefits. So I could write this platform for you. Maybe that's what I'll do now for the rest of this conversation is I will write this for you. Okay. So a positive housing plan to start. As many of you know that there are people that are on Social Security disability. They also often get subsidies, housing subsidies. However, for people that are on disability, they may want to get a job, right? Because there's a lot of dignity in working, and a lot of people want to be able to do that, and they should be able to do that. However, when you start to work, you are at risk of losing a lot of your benefits because you end up making more money. A real plan would say, if you are on Social Security disability, you maintain your benefits for at least 6 months, because a lot of times disabled people can't keep a job for more than 2 or 3 months, and that's okay. But at least they were able to do that. But then they end up losing their housing subsidies, their food stamps, and all those things. How about we make it so that you keep your housing benefit for 6 months, and then if you're still working, then you go on and you do your work or whatever. But also, if you are no longer able to work, it should not take like 3 to 6 months for you to get your benefits reinstated. That housing voucher needs to come right back immediately the next month. They're paying for your housing. And that means hiring more people to work in Social Security. That means streamlining the process. Okay. Like those are the things that can happen, right? Let's see what they're talking about here. Utilities, da, da, da. Talking about saving $30 to $75 a month on broadband. They need to expand that. I would expand access to broadband internet, and making sure that we are really, really digging into those areas that we have not touched for the last 20 years and that we continue to ignore. Let's see what else. They want more to talking about what the Republicans do. Okay, education. No, 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 no. Oh, so preschool, they're talking about preschool. So what I want to see them say, I want them to say that we are going to protect Head Start and make sure that every American child that qualifies for Head Start has access to Head Start. We will also provide more funding. This is me. This is not them. They're not this good. We will also be providing more money so that we can build more more physical spaces for Head Start programming. We will also invest in other out of school time stuff because we understand that children need stimulation, and that when they're not stimulated and they get bored, they end up getting into trouble, as is the case in Philadelphia. We will create more opportunities for out of school time funding, and that's one of the hardest things. I've done some out of school stuff, and getting money for that is so hard. We often have to rely on private funders just to be able to have like a third space for the young people to go. Mm-mm. the Democratic Party needs to take that seriously because it's so connected to a lot of the crime that happens. So you want to be tough on crime, but you need to prevent the crime. But see, they don't want to do that. They want to make sure that these young people do get in trouble and that they do get thrown in jail because they know that the private prisons need the slave labor. So, and that's a bipartisan thing. They're all going to support that. In fact, she's still our top cop, and she reminded us during the convention that she is that person. Let me see. Hold on. I got something else I wanted to show y'all. Here we go. Um, she did her back on track program in 2005. Minnesota opposed the death penalty. Oh, they support the death penalty too. That's not very democratic of them. But when you have a prosecutor who is running for president, of course you're gonna. Yeah, yeah. Well, anyway. Mm. 1% of elected Black women prosecutors. Oh, Black women are only 1% of prosecutors. Good. We should be 0%, but 1%. That's good. That's good. So Harris was co-author of the first draft of the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Biden pledged to sign it once it hit his desk. It did not get there. Limited use of qualified immunity, that should be no use. Okay, so Democrats actually need to take the stance of no qualified immunity. And the fact that they won't do that is a problem. Walz, they're basically, he's more progressive. I don't see much on that. Let's scroll. Let's keep going. All right, that's climate. I want to get to the law shit because that's where it's fun. Protecting communities and tackling the scourge of gun violence. Let's talk about this. Now, we know that Walz often talks about being a proud gun owner. We all know that I am. You're going to pry my guns from my cold black hands. If you can make it past the bullets. So they're talking about gun safety. Trump, gun violence, Trump. They passed the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. It's about federal gun trafficking and straw purchasing. Background checks for, okay, all that stuff, boyfriend loophole, all that stuff, okay. They will establish universal background checks, a step supported by the vast majority of Americans. That's good. We will once again ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. So, if they are so confident in this, please understand that they could have done it in the last 4 years. I hear where they go with their language of, we will work on, we will pressure, we will encourage. That's them saying, we ain't gonna be able to do shit. We get that. But when you make statements like, the Democrats will establish universal background checks, you've been in office for 4 years. Why haven't you done it already? What's the reason? And are you willing to share with the class why you've been unable to do this? Okay. They will end the gun industry's immunity from liability, so gun makers can no longer escape accountability. That's going to have to go through the Supreme Court, and you guys do not run the Supreme Court. So no, you're not going to be able to do that. You got to stop lying. Stop lying to people, right? Okay. Public trust, as any officer will tell you, is the foundation of public safety. Police cannot fulfill their role to keep communities safe without public trust and confidence in law enforcement and the criminal justice system. I'm going to stare right into this camera, and I'm going to stare right into this camera. I'm going to stare back at this one, and I'm going to look at this one. See what happens when you elect a cop. Is the police role actually to keep communities safe? I haven't seen any evidence of this in my 45 years on this earth. I am not sure what they're talking about. So anything they say after this is based on lies because that shit ain't true. And he said two words, Eric Adams, and I will add two more, Sherelle Parker, and I will add two more, Keisha Lance Bottoms, three more, Keisha Lance Bottoms. I will add two more, Lori Lightfoot. Okay? Okay? Niggas in high places, I am paraphrasing my good sis, gave the Spellman address. Niggas in high places usually mean harsher laws. Because niggas are trying to impress white folks. That's why it's the same idea. Okay, Black history lesson. I'm going to throw it in because it makes sense politically, right? Part of why Black parents are more abusive towards their children. And when I say abusive, I'm talking about like spanking standards, all those kinds of things. Studies have shown that Black moms they start beating their children earlier than white moms, for example. 1 year olds are getting beaten, things like that. Part of it comes from this legacy of this idea of believing I have to correct you before I send you out into the world, and they end up killing you. That kind of thing, right? So that's this mentality that has existed since enslavement, that it's my job to make sure that I correct you before the white people see you and they really do some damage, right? And so we have this overcorrective stance and approach to how we raise our children and how we handle things in the community. This is why, like the Joe Biden crime bill, you only really hear young people talking and complaining about it because our elders were absolutely supportive of it. They loved it. They begged for it. They were going to their local precinct meetings and their community meetings begging for more police, begging for action. They still do it to this day. I know this because I haven't gone to any recently, but when I was last doing work around this, I was at them like every week. And these people show up every week and they beg for more police. And that's your grandmother, that's your aunt, that's your uncle, it's your grandpa, it's your cousin. They are begging for more police, right? So that's why the Democrats know that they can kind of move with this because they know that we've got enough folks that support this stuff, right? Okay, so this idea of public trust and police, yeah, elders trust and love the police. They do, and they're the ones who vote. They're the ones who show up at the local meetings. They're the ones who support the police in their efforts to do things. So, I tell young people all the time, I'm like, yeah, that's where you need to get involved. Forget the holding up the hands and the signs. You all need to be showing up at the community meetings and the precinct meetings. That's who you need. You need to be talking to the person, that guy and his team that they sent out to your protests. You need to know him on the first day or first name basis. Okay. Mm. Half of this is talking about Biden. Democrats will pass the Safer America plan, which calls on Congress to invest $37 billion to support law enforcement, and crime prevention. 37 taxpayer billion dollars to pay the police to beat our asses and kill us. That's a win. That's called a win. That's a win. Yes, and they are the ones who vote consistently. Absolutely, Charmaine. Absolutely. So $37 billion is going to support law enforcement. That means increasing police. That means giving them more money. And I will say this, as much as I hate pigs and don't think that they deserve to live or breathe, or not much less make any money, a lot of places they are criminally underpaid. Like there's places where they're getting like $25,000 a year, $30,000 a year to be cops. And that's crazy. That is crazy. That's why they be on their phones. They're like, I'm not risking my life for no $30,000. Eat a dick. And I get it. I get it. I would never be a pig. I would never sign up for a pig. I would rather starve. But I understand that when a lot of backs are against the wall and people feel that's the only thing that they can do, they'll sign up and they'll become cops, right? Now they want to pour $37 billion more into that. I didn't see $37 billion being pledged to pour into our communities for preventative things, preventative education, for out of school time support, for community investments around, things like that, things that prevent crime, right? We didn't see that. We don't see that. And we're not going to see that because she's a cop. That includes funding 100,000 additional police officers with accountable community policing. There's no such thing. You can't have the community policing the police. That's not going to work. Not when you're building cop cities across the country. Just want to point that out. 5 billion in community violence intervention. So 5 billion for the prevention efforts, and 37 billion for when it doesn't work. How about you give 37 billion to the community prevention efforts and then 5 billion to the pigs? No. We will give the communities the tool to crack down on gun crime, retail crime, and carjacking. Carjacking is still that's still a big thing? That 37 billion could disrupt a big part of the pipeline to prison. Absolutely. I'm just curious. I'm curious about this, folks. Okay, so here's what we know. Let me tell you a little about, for those who don't know what prevention education is, it is a branch of education that focuses on teaching people about things to help them navigate them before bad things happen. So, for example, in the 90s, Clinton's administration gave a lot of money to prevention education. And with that money, a lot of places were developing programming that was teaching children about consensual sex, HIV, AIDS, STI transmission, so-called date rape, all those kinds of things from kindergarten up, like age-appropriate education. Some of you may be too young to remember that. I remember it because I married someone who was running one of those programs, and I watched what happened when they lost all that funding during the Bush years, because I had my kid during the Bush years, and they got all that funding got stripped in favor of abstinence only. So you couldn't really run those programs anymore unless you were teaching children don't ever have sex, right? Had to be absolute abstinence only. You could only teach that until you get married, and we're not funding anything else. Again, that was a Heritage Foundation agenda, and I need people. So, okay, show of hands, how many people didn't know that prevention education funding got scrapped during the Bush years, or how many of you didn't even know it existed during the Clinton years? Here's how you know it existed. Teen pregnancy rates like plummeted, okay, in the 90s. In the early 2000s, it like plummeted, okay? STI transmission was lowering. Like all of these things were happening simply because of the prevention education. All right, we got some folks in the YouTube chat that heard about it. Anybody on Instagram heard about it? So look, they were doing programs, and this is how my ex and this is how I know Kerry Washington, through my ex, because she actually used to do the program together before he ended up running it, and she went on to become an actress. They would go into schools and they would do these like skits and sketches and things like that, and these interactive programming, very age appropriate from kindergarten up. Somebody said I used to work in after school and summer programs that used that money. Yes, it was a lot of out of school time. And somebody said on Instagram, which is wild because of how they turned on Jocelyn Elders. Jocelyn Elders, the queen. Oh gosh. One time for Jocelyn Elders. Okay. So we had that. And what we started seeing was a decrease in all of these things, a decrease in reports of sexual violence, a decrease in all these things. So it works, right? Prevention education works, evidence-based practice. George Bush came along with the Heritage Foundation, got rid of all of it, said we can only do abstinence only. What do we see happening? The rates start increasing again, right? Things are starting to get bad again, right? So this idea of investing 5 billion into that stuff, but 37 billion into cops, it's wild to me. Because if you took the 37 billion and invested it, again, like I said earlier, out of school time, we call it OST, out of school time programming, prevention education, third spaces when young people don't have anywhere to go anymore. Remember when a lot of us, those of you that are Gen X and elder millennials, you remember when we were young, we actually had places to go. We had local parks to go that we could hang out by ourselves. There were teen skate nights. They would have teen movie nights. There would be all these different programs and stuff that would be available because we had things to do. They don't have that shit no more. And a lot of places, they don't have any of that stuff anymore. You said, I remember that there were a lot more after school programming at that time that dried up when the George Bush administration took the funds. Absolutely. And so what ended up happening is a lot of those young people started getting into more trouble. And because they were getting into more trouble, now we see what's happening now, right? So that's a problem. The Democratic Party investing 7 times more money into cops than it does into prevention. It's a It's not a progressive approach. Uh, but I love y'all though. I love y'all. Um, mm, we will create a new violent crime reduction and prevention fund to give federal, state, local, and tribal law enforcement the resources they need to fight crime, including to hire more agents, prosecutors, and forensic specialists. I'm going to stare in this camera, and I'm going to stare in this camera. I'm going to stare again at this camera, and then I'm going to come back to this camera. Now, y'all got mad when people said, when people like me said, this she's a cop. Y'all get mad when we call her a cop. I don't understand why you're getting mad when we call her a cop, because the only reason she's in this position right now is because she was a cop, because she was a top cop. She was a pig. And she's bringing her pig initiatives with her. Okay? And she's actually making them a little more right wing to appease to be. Oh, and let me go on my little rant. I've had this rant in my spirit all day. All day. A little mini rant. Okay. Do you think it's more important to, I'm going to give you A and B, and then y'all can put your answer in the chat because I got half of y'all over here, half of y'all over here. Okay. Choice A. Court the people in the middle, the people who never liked you, the people who don't like your party, and the people who otherwise would be staunchly against you, but are open to hearing you because they hate the person that is being touted as the leader for a one-time vote, while risking alienating the people who have been riding with you for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, their whole lives, who are the ones that are actually going to show up in the midterms again, the ones who are going to be doing work in their local communities to support and implement these initiatives that you say that you have? Or do you spend more of your time, that's A, do you spend more of your time trying to win back the people you've been losing, who have actually been loyal to the party most of their adult lives and actually want to do more of this kind of community-based work to make these things happen, and forego the people who are only going to vote for you this one time and could possibly spend the next 4 years countering everything that you do? Just A or B. I see a B over here. You already know. A or B. Because what the Democrats are doing is A. The Democrats are saying, we actually don't care because 700,000 of you voted in the primaries saying that you were uncommitted, even though you usually vote for us. And 700,000 votes are coming from swing places like Michigan, where we need to win Michigan. They're coming from places like Jersey, that's supposed to be a solidly blue state, and yet Jersey is saying, like, 1 out of 5 Jersey primary voters are saying, they're not. Those are the people that you should be courting, because that 700,000, when placed in the right precincts and the right counties, could be an election game changer. Instead, you're wasting a lot of money and time trying to court maybe 100, 200,000 people that might switch their vote from over there, or people who are like independent, like Oprah, and riding the fence. And Oprah is only an independent because she's wealthy and she votes for Republican values as often as she can to keep her wealth. But outside, she's Black and she's a woman. And so she's got to pretend like she's for progress, but she's not. It just doesn't make sense to me. I would think that you want to get the people who are going to be ride or die and have been ride or die, or and actually why you all are in office right now, and you're losing them. Why are you going after the person who gets at the DNC and says, "I don't support anything that the Democrats do, but this time I'm going to vote because I hate Trump"? That is not the person you're supposed to be spending all this money going after. Okay, criminal justice section. We're in the criminal justice section. All right. Committed to rehabilitation and reentry for people returning to their communities after incarceration, and building a criminal justice system that lives up to those ideals and ensures that everyone receives equal justice under the law. That is impossible in a racist nation. Again, want to remind everybody 5 centuries, 5 centuries of racism. And I say five because I go back to the early 1500s when they first brought enslaved people here. Not that 1619 nonsense. How are you going to change that? You also have 4 years to get a lot of this together, right? No one should be in jail for just for using or possessing marijuana. I agree. I absolutely agree. In fact, let me use this marijuana right now because you should be calling it cannabis and not marijuana. Okay. Anyway, sending to people for prison for possession is upended too many lives. Blah 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 blah. Biden released a comprehensive strategic plan to improve the criminal justice system and strengthen the public safety, including more than 100 concrete actions. Well, what are you going to do? Oh, keep investing, keep supporting that. Okay. President Biden pardoned, the 200,000 gay, lesbian, bisexual veterans. Okay, that was good. What are you going to do going forward? Okay, so here's what a policy looks like, right? Sister Leslie Mack said earlier on Thread, she said, there's a difference between a stance and a policy, right? So when I see something like that, right, I want to hear them follow that up with, we are going to make sure that no LGBTQ plus veteran faces any type of discrimination, loss of job. We're going to put this into law. We're going to make sure that this is federal law and that, you're not going to be persecuted, and we're going to make sure that this is codified, and that's it. That's the kind of stuff we want to hear. Not you talking about what you did or what Trump plans to do. What are you going to do to protect folks in that regard? Democrats will take action to expunge federal marijuana-only convictions. That's a nice caveat they have to put in there, right? Because it can't be like marijuana and you shot somebody in the head. Can't do that. Can't do that. They're going to expand access to public defenders and step up civil rights enforcement, including by boosting funding for the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division and hiring 50 new assistant U.S. attorneys. That's one per state, I'm guessing. What about D.C., Puerto Rico? No? Okay. Guess they don't count. Oh, here's one. We actually got something here, y'all. We got something here. Somebody ring an alarm. We actually got something here. The Democrats will end state-level use of private prisons and detention centers. What about the federal level use? Okay. So they're getting rid of the private prisons. How many of us believe that the Democrats are going to get rid of private prisons? Nobody. Good. They're not. Oh, God. We will restrict state and local practices like solitary confinement, chokeholds, and restraints on pregnant inmates. So again, you've been in office for 4 years. You've been in office for 4 years. Why isn't this a thing already? Why haven't you gotten rid of the private prisons and detention centers? Why haven't you completely restricted solitary confinement and chokeholds? Why haven't you made those federally illegal, right? the restraints on the pregnant inmates. I know some places did stop that, right? Like that's a thing. And I'm like, why haven't you made this federal law? 4 years. And so the problem with the Democrats is that they kind of hold over and they dangle those things to get you to vote when you should be asking, why haven't you already done these things? Um, and then back to Trump, 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 Trump. Violence against women. Let me see. Has the ERA been ratified? Oh, no, still hasn't. Still hasn't. Still hasn't happened. So tell me then how you're going to protect women. Okay, let's read what they say. Let's read what they say. That's what we're doing today. Ending violence against women has been the cause of President Biden's life, except for that time when he got caught up sexually harassing. Oh, anyway. Oh, and then that whole Anita Hill thing, right? Okay. Oh, and there were two other Black women that were going to come and testify against Clarence Thomas, and Joe Biden didn't let them speak. But ending violence against women has been his cause for his whole life. Correct? All right. Um, hmm, National Plan to End Gender-Based Violence, America Rescue Plan, strengthening Title X, boyfriend loophole, keep the guns out of the hands of domestic abusers. They're fighting that in certain states, FYI. Democrats will work to end sexual assault, domestic violence, online abuse, and all violence against women. Everybody's working to end that. So, I mean, I just don't think that that kind of language is helpful here because we're always working to end that. But I need you to tell me what we're going to do. Okay. They say they want to continue to strengthen VAWA. If you don't know what VAWA is, the Violence Against Women Act. They said they want to keep the guns out of hands of domestic abusers. Okay. Problem with that is that, well, unless you do it at federal level, then you have to have federal guidelines and criteria for what makes someone a domestic abuser because it varies by state, right? And your ability to get restraining orders and things like that all vary by where you live, right? To keep students safe on campus, we'll work to implement and enforce Title X and end sexual harassment and assault on our nation's schools. You're not going to end sexual assault as long as men exist. Sexual assault will exist. So for me, I don't like language like that because, again, false promises. You're not going to end sexual assault. There's absolutely no way in hell. And you should not, as a presidential candidate, be telling people that you're going to end sexual assault against women. We can work on it, but I want to know how you're going to work on it. You know what the plan is? Or remember I said I would give my plans? Okay, so here's my plan. First of all, stop just making it about violence against women. We know that women are people who identify as women, cisgender women, transgender women, what have you, are the primary victims of a lot of violence and gender-based violence. However, we must also understand that other people are also victims of intimate partner violence and domestic violence. We should also make a clear distinction between domestic violence and intimate partner violence because not all intimate partner violence is domestic, and not all domestic violence is intimate partner violence. That said, I would um, I would give several $billions towards prevention education programs that tackle this, and I would get it back into junior high because we are noticing that the younger people, like this violence and stuff against each other in this kind of gendered and sexualized capacity is happening at a much younger age. Earlier this year, or I think it was like late last year, a 14-year-old in Philly was trying to talk to this girl that was in a car, and she rejected him, and he went down the street to somebody's house, got a gun, came back and shot her. 14 years old. Okay, so that's a problem. I would invest money into that kind of educational programming, teaching healthy relationships, regardless of gender and sexual identity, teaching what healthy relationships look like, how you respect each other, what are some of the warning signs of abuse, right? Because especially with social media, a lot of young women are using social media to be abusive towards their partners. Young girls, teens, and stuff like that. They also need this education because it's not right. And young boys and young men need to understand how to identify um, when they are victims of violence and when they are perpetuating it, right? So I would pour money into that. Um, I would make a federal law, like executive order, that if you have been convicted of intimate partner violence or any type of domestic abuse, you cannot buy a gun, cannot own a gun until your probationary period or whatever is over. As long as there's any active restraining orders against you, you cannot own these things. These will be part of the background checks. That's the other problem, is that people are not getting that information in the background checks. I would be revamping what goes into the background checks. Like, these are the things that I would do. What else would I do? Violence against women, violence against women. Oh, I would invest money into bystander intervention training, because I know a little something about that. Like, I would make, like, you okay sis, like a whole national thing, like where we are doing bystander intervention programming and education across schools, across colleges, institutions, high schools, making sure that people understand how to intervene safely when they see those kinds of things happening. Um, and I'm always here for chemical castration. So, but I don't think it needs to be carried out. I don't think the taxpayers need to pay for it. I think, that if you're an old school hip hop fan, y'all remember that skit from Wu Tang and in the part with the nuts. I'm with her. All right. Strengthening democracy, protecting freedom, advancing equity. I don't trust any of that. So I was watching Enemy of the State, great film if you haven't seen it. Gene, what's the name? Gene Hackman and Will Smith. I watch it at least once a year. It's prescient as hell. Go check that out. A lot of stuff is about justices. If he's elected again, Trump will appoint more justices in the same mold. So this is where I was talking about this earlier. If you were here earlier, this is a lie. So this idea that that if elected again, Trump will appoint more justices in the same mold. Yeah, if any of them die, sure, he'll reappoint a conservative. The same way, if you're elected, and one of your so-called liberals quits or passes away, you'll appoint another one. It's not very much different, but he's not going to do more, right? He's not going to add to it. Far right ideologues. Okay, Trump. President, they said Biden. Harris will continue to appoint justices and judges across the federal bench who are like Justice Jackson. Brilliant jurors committed to defending American rights and freedoms. I'm sorry. Biden has appointed more than 200 highly qualified federal judges who look like America. Anytime they start talking about that look like America shit, they start getting into the identity politics. I don't have it. Welcome. If you are watching on Instagram, we are over on YouTube also. You can come join us over there. There's a chat going on. My YouTube chat, y'all kind of quiet today, but that's okay. Y'all can come and join us over there, or you can stay right here. Thank you to everybody who has bought a badge so far. You can buy a badge and support this work here. We've been here since 5 o'clock now. It's been an hour and a half we're going in. All right. Stopping influences of special interest. I'm going to just pass that. It is absolutely complete bullshit. AIPAC runs and controls Kamala Harris. So there's nothing that they can say about special interests. Not when so many of the Democrats are being paid. They have lobbyists that have and corporations and institutes and all these things like that have Democratic elected officials in their pockets as well. That is not going to stop. Yes, somebody said, were the whole talking points about Biden choosing not to expand the Supreme Court just propaganda? Everything that they say is propaganda. So that's my answer to that. Everything they say is propaganda. on both sides. That's what politics is, right? It's propaganda. It's whatever they need to say to get you to vote. They don't actually care if they tell the truth. But we are for the truth no matter who tells it, right? Shout out to Brother Malcolm. Um, President Biden, Vice Harris, well, again, they did not update this, and it's pissing me off that they didn't do that. Are fighting back to restore reproductive freedom for every woman in every state. Um, oh, Cori Bush just lost her job because of special interests. Absolutely correct. All shiny objects. Absolutely correct. Um, I think the thing that they've been talking about that pisses me off the most is this whole reproductive thing. Well, first of all, this is the party that got the language to be changed to reflect gender nonconformity and non-binary people and things like that. They've reverted since Harris has been the nominee. They reverted back to like the binary of man and woman, and that's disappointing. And so when I hear our trans folks, and and I support our trans family all the time. When I hear them saying, I just don't want Trump because blah 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 blah, and I'm like, the Democrats don't care about you either. Like, and I hate to say it that way, but they don't actually care about any of us. They'll dangle you around if they need to. If they happen to go to San Francisco, I bet that they will have trans people in the audience, right? Or if they go to New York or things like that, they'll dangle you when they need to. They don't actually care about you. If they do, that they would say things like, or like non-binary people, they don't care about anybody. Like they would just say the reproductive freedom for everyone in every state. And here's the thing, you have to remember that once they come for, regulating the bodies of cisgender women, they go to men next. Like, y'all think y'all gonna keep being able to get vasectomies if the goal is to make sure that people have more babies? Like, seriously, JD Vance said, babies conceived of rape is just an inconvenience. So what are they going to do then? Like, right. Somebody said, is it special interest or primary interest? Absolutely. The administration defending access to emergency care, including clarifying the federal law on emergency care. Again, you have 4 years to do this. Educating patients on their rights. Trump, 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 Trump. 9 in 10 women have used contraception, and Democrats are also working to expand access to birth control. FDA approved the first over-counter oral daily contraceptive. Yes, they did. Let's see. Okay. Supreme Court elimination of protections has had a devastating effect. Yet Trump's overturning Roe opened the doors to laws to rip away its vital access to care. Da 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 da. Okay. Oh, we will protect a woman's right to access IVF. We will repeal the Hyde Amendment. Oh, well, that's policy. We will repeal the Hyde Amendment. And in his second term, President Biden, oh God, this is so bad to drop after the DNC when you had like a month to rewrite this whole thing. Like, you could have put this in Chat GPT and said, whenever you see us referring to President Biden, change it to. You could have done this. This is so sloppy. My queer community keeps saying, but Trump. And I'm just like, we are already there. Absolutely. Absolutely. I try to tell, listen, we are already there. Women's rights. There's a whole section on that. No one should be discriminated against based on their sex, and we as a nation must affirm and protect women's full equality. They will fight to make the Equal Rights Amendment the law of the land. Again, we'll fight for, we'll urge, we'll, encourage, we'll put pressure. But you're not going to do it yourself. Okay. They want to work to pass the Paycheck Fairness Act. Work to pass. We will guarantee affordable, high-quality childcare from birth until kindergarten, with most families paying just $10 a day and making it free for low-income families. I want to know how you're going to do that. How much is childcare in your area, y'all? Anybody in the chat is paying for childcare right now or happens to know how much per month it is, how much per week childcare is? Because $10 a day is 300 a month. That sounds really good. Is it coming from the tax? It should. Like, it should be something that's subsidized from the taxes, right? But I also understand about that is that there are some limitations to where they're allowed to do those subsidies. So that's important as well, just to remember that. You have to like yours if you have a center or something like that, it has to meet certain criteria and standards, be enrolled in certain programs. Somebody said, I'm a preschool teacher, it can be a few thousand a month. Okay, yeah. So if they're giving you, well, so what generally happens, and I don't know if any of you have ever used childcare vouchers, but basically they'll give you vouchers. And so they're saying, if you're going to pay $10 a day, they're going to give you a voucher, and that voucher is going to go towards a federally approved daycare center. And your share will be like $300 a month, or however many months, about a month, and then they will pay the rest. But their cost has to fall within what that voucher says. So if they're giving you a voucher, say for 600 a month, and I remember when I used to deal with them, they were 600 a month. It's probably more now, but then again, we don't know because they ain't raised the minimum wage either. But if this is, if they give you 600 and you got to pay 300, it's very much like Section 8. Then you got to find a location where it's only 900 a month. Okay. What is that? 225 a week? Oh, in Canada, Quebec passed a $7 a day childcare platform. Okay. You said it's 250 a week in your area? Okay. Yeah. When my son was in when he was young, I took him to a local elder black woman, and she had 6 kids total, and we paid 150 a week, and that was disgustingly low. So I always gave her extra money or whatever because I was just like, this is ridiculous. You watch my kid like 40 hours a week, and you're only getting 150. That's crazy. But that's what she charged. But this was 18 years ago. So um, a lot of this, so much of this, and I think that's where the frustration comes from. So much of this is we will continue. Thank you for buying a badge, Madam C. Madam. It's we will continue what we've been doing. But a lot of us, we've seen some of the things that they've done. I'm not gonna lie, like the student loan forgiveness. A lot of people been getting student loans forgiven. I got some of mine forgiven. I was very happy about that. I could use the rest of them being forgiven too. That'd be great. um, we are seeing the $35 insulin for the eldest. Um, $18 billion to is. Oh wait, that's wrong. That's not good. So oh God, this is a whole section on racial equity. Do I want to read this? Is it going to be ignorant? Democrats expanded the child tax credit to millions more families, slashing the child poverty rate in half to record lows, including for Black, Latino, and AANHPI children. What is AANHP? Okay, Asian American Native? I know Pacific Islander. What is the H? I've never heard this. Somebody knows. Please let me know. I don't know what this is. Anybody know what the H is? Okay, well, we'll keep going. Um, we'll keep fighting to make that expansion permanent. So again, they're fighting. Heritage. Okay, so I say heritage. Okay, got it. Got it. Native heritage. Makes sense. Makes sense. Why are Native people being grouped in with Asian, though, and Pacific Islander? No, Hispanic, they already mentioned Latino. So H is Hawaiian. Is it Hawaiian? Okay, so Hawaiian makes sense. Okay. All right. I'll take that. That works. Okay. They talked about SBA loans, they talk about HBCUs. They just all of this is talking about what they've already done. Um, they're working to bring down housing costs. Okay, I'm not all of this is working, 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 working. No plans. Oh, there's a whole section on LGBTQI. Hmm. Every time I read this shit, I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Um, Committed to leading the most pro-equality administration in history. Okay. Well, okay. They said Trump gutted Obama Biden anti-discrimination protections and banned da 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 da. Um, Biden delivered on his promise to ban discrimination in healthcare. Okay, 4 years. You've been there for 4 years. What are you doing? um, as President Biden has said, LGBTQI youth are some of the bravest people he knows. So this is all written for Biden, and I feel like if they were to try to change it for Harris, and they should have changed it for Harris, they probably wouldn't have a lot of this stuff in this, right? Because she's on the right. Um, okay, let's see. I'm gonna go check my other article that I had because that gave me a little bit more. Um, that gives me a little bit more rural issues. Rural. That's a word that I struggle to say, and I'm not sure. Can Black people say this word? Rural, rural. I don't know if I'm capable of saying this word. I avoid saying it as much as possible. I live in a rural area. Why can't I say rural? Um, let's see. Building trust with farmers. Oh, the farmers. They did just get money. 2.2 billion in financial assistance. The administration released 2.2 billion dollars in financial assistance to farmers who had faced historic discrimination. That was a big move. That was a big move. I like that. And they're saying that they are. Oh, and they changed the USDA loans. Excuse me. Okay. Green New Deal. Let's see, reproductive health. We already talked about that. Education. We talked about that. All right, let me look at this other article because y'all get on my nerves. Oh no, I don't want that. Okay, turn that off. I want to get rid of this. Okay. Oh, this article is suggesting. Let's see. Um, this one is saying that that Biden and Harris have shut down apprenticeships. Um, New industry recognized apprenticeship programs were canceled. Uh-oh, that's not good. But this article is kind of leaning towards saying that they are not good for non-union workers, which is true, right? None of these parties are good for non-union workers. So that's why they kept focusing on the unions. All right, let's go back and let's see. They still don't have nothing. They still don't have nothing. If you go, I'm going to show you. Hold on. Let me share my screen. All right. So I just went KamalaHarris.com. Don't miss out. Stay informed by No, I'm not signing up for notifications. First thing, asking for money. All right. At the top, still asking for money. Meet Kamala Harris. Still the same thing. Let me close that. Meet Tim Walz. Same thing. Take action. And then the store. I Okay. Am I missing it? Somebody in the chat tell me if I'm missing the link. Somebody give me somebody give me a link to something that they put out because this is all I got. You hear what I'm saying? This is all I got. I don't see everything else that I'm getting is like so the final thing that I got for the convention, which hadn't been updated to say Harris. I don't know. Does anybody else know? I don't know. I just $47. I'm not giving y'all $47. Does anybody have a link? No? Okay. Did y'all catch this tweet? Let me share this with y'all. Did y'all catch this? Did y'all see this tweet from Rashida Tlaib? She said, I know for, so the original tweet said reporters are being briefed, it seems, that the DNC accepted Dem State Representative Rua for Georgia as a Palestinian speaker for tonight on the stage, but uncommitted movement turned her down. This is simply not true. It's a lie. It's being told, I assume, by DNC spinners now on the defensive. Uncommitted are the ones who pitched her. And there's still time for the DNC to put her on stage tonight for 2 minutes. If they have time and space for former Republican congressmen and for Israeli family members of the hostage, they have time and space for an elected Palestinian Democratic lawmaker. Anything else is straight up racism and erasure. Rashida respond, I know for a fact that the DNC did not act in good faith and continue to lie about negotiations. They are exposing themselves. Now, here's what I don't understand, family. Rashida's right there. But they don't like her because when Netanyahu came, when their stepson came to speak, she held up a sign that said war criminal. And that was her protest in her kafia. And she had a sign and it said war criminal. And so they don't like her. You got a BBC article? Not one from them. What was the BBC article? Because I'll read that. If the Brits can talk better. Policy platform. Oh, I'm not. Okay, where Harris and Walz stand on 2024 biggest policy issues. I'm looking at Politico. Y'all want, I'll share it with you. Why not? Let's share it. If you're if you're on YouTube, you will see the screen share here. All right. The vice president has made abortion a pillar of her national campaign, and the Walz family personal experience with in vitro fertilization is a chance to further pitch that. Her earlier positions newly relevant, even as she breaks with her parties. Oh, where's she break? Where's she break with us? Oh, the left flank. Yeah. What's shaping up as tension points between Harris and the left? Yeah. She's already starting to break with the party's left flank. Oh yeah, we see all of that. Okay, anyway. So on the economy, might not attract swing voters, major target for Republicans, may attract swing voters, not a major target. Harris has managed to avoid much of the economic scrutiny that hung over Biden's campaign. I wonder why. Oh, because she was the vice president and didn't do anything, right? Didn't really do anything but cast like decision-making votes, which is important, right? Okay. On Friday, she began rolling out her economic plans in a speech focused on lowering costs for everyday Americans while calling on Congress to ban price gouging. There it is. She called on Congress to ban price gouging by food corporations. She can't do it. She said that she was going to do it, though. She said, like, I promise to bring these things down, but she can't do it, right? Okay, just want to make sure. Let's see. Appeal to the working class voters. Economy is still a thing. Inflation eased. Unemployment ticked up unexpectedly in July. Okay. So that's something. Abortion and IVF might swing voters. Okay. Abortion. Leading enforceable voice, limiting state restrictions on. Okay. But the Harris campaign has said she now backs the Biden stance of restoring Roe, which protected abortion until the point of fetal viability. So they're saying she switched from 2019, where she was saying that they should limit state restrictions, and now she's saying they should restore Roe. We already talked about how that's not going to happen. Okay. They visited a Planned Parenthood. Okay, labor. They're saying she's not going to probably not going to attract the swing voters. He might attract them. She does have endorsements by AFL-CIO, UAW, farm workers. The Teamsters are with the Republicans, though, so it seems. Environment. major target for Republicans, both of them. Um, he alienated some of the voters in the Rust Belt. This has made them more pragmatists. Okay. So they pushing for fracking now? Like, I don't, somebody said that. Oh, Walz was rarely seen as an environmental champion by his colleagues, and he voted to complete the construction of the Keystone XL oil pipeline. And they said that he's riled up environmentalists who argue that his administration should be moving to halt mining development in his state. She's also facing questions from the left about how she might differentiate herself from Biden, including his climate agenda. She's had vocal advocacy for Black, Hispanic, and impoverished communities. It really bothers me when the Democrats continue to do that. It sounds like no Negroes, no Italians, no dogs, right? We know that those are three separate entities, but putting them together on the same sign kind of puts them all like these are all the same. And so they often will say things like Black, Hispanic, or Black and brown and poor, like they're all together. And I don't think that that's the best strategy. Bernie Sanders had this issue where he was constantly pathologizing Blackness as struggle. Like he could rarely say anything positive about being Black in America, and that really turned me off because I'm like, all right, 30% of Black people live in poverty in the United States. That is well above the national average, right? So it's something like I think the last numbers was like 13% of the American population lives in poverty. So yes, we're more than twice that. But there's also 70% who don't live in poverty. And we have to consider them more than once every 4 years when we want their votes as well. We need to stop talking about them like, like they're all suffering and struggling, especially when Black people's spending power is what it is. I mean, Black people pour money into the economy, and it doesn't stay within our communities like it does with some other folks. It immediately leaves our communities. So you would think that they would stop with this messaging that like Black people are poor, and they would talk about the economic diversity of Black people. But that's okay. Taxes might attract swing voters. She's not hiking taxes for most Americans. Um, Not raising taxes on anybody less than 400,000. We know about that. Um, she backed the plans. Yes, she wants to do the end the federal tax on tips. Despite the widespread skepticism among economists, Harris threw her weight behind the plan while speaking in Las Vegas, where such a ban would play well with Latino voters in particular. Does anybody know? Has she said anything about not taxing the tips since she left Vegas? Or was that only for Vegas, for the Vegas crowd? Has she said this? Did she say it at the DNC? I missed it because y'all know I was muting some of her shit. Did she say it at the DNC? Anybody in the chat? No, I don't remember. Okay. Agriculture. She's never made the farmlands a tentpole of her career, which is what he's done, which is why he's there. So that's good. Israel and China. They see her as a better messenger. Get the fuck out of here. Somebody said, I don't think so. I don't think so. No. Okay. Okay. Thank you. I'm just double checking. All right. So yeah, I did look at the platform. It was still written as though President Biden is going to be the president. The candidate, like that's who they're rallying behind, which is a serious misstep. They had plenty of time to correct that document before publishing it when they found out that she was going to be the nominee. They need policies on their website. They still don't have those. We just visited the Kamala Harris for President, whatever website. Still no policies on there, no platform statements. what's happening is that all these people are writing these articles and kind of pulling from different speeches and different things that they have said in order to try to piece together a policy platform because they don't have one still. And that is, you can't do that. It is August. People are going back to school. People are, family dynamics are changing. People are going to be focused on their work. They're not going to be investigating this stuff. They're not going to be, trying to dig deep into this. You have to make this as simple as possible for folks. And so if already it is August, what is today? It is August 25th. It is August 25th. And you don't have a very clear policy platform on your website. And that, oh, you're saying they probably won't update until the debate at this point. And the debate is coming up. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Make sure everybody knows. If you go to my YouTube, you'll see that there are 2 upcoming videos. You can hit the notify button, but it's so much better if you subscribe to me because then you'll get the notification for when I go live for those. We are going to be doing the presidential debate and we're going to be doing the vice presidential debate together as a family, as a community. So please go make sure you hit that notify button, put it in your calendar. Let me just double check on the dates that I have it set. September 10th, 2024, we're going to be doing the presidential debate. And October 10th, I think it's October 10th. I'll just double check and see if it's supposed to be the 1st or the 10th. We'll be doing the vice presidential debate. All right. And so we'll be watching these together. We'll be live commenting. And then, we'll survive this together, y'all. This is not easy to get through, especially when people are continuing to gaslight you. And one side is threatening you with the worst time of your life. And the other side is gaslighting you into believing that they're not going to give you the worst time of your life, but they're going to be pretty damn close. So we're going to watch these all together. Again, reminding people that I have zero investment in either of these parties because to me, they're all nonsense. However, I'm very interested in this because there is the opportunity for history to be made, right? And I was just talking about this with my friends. I was also talking about this, online. I can absolutely say that this is a historic moment, right? This can be a historic moment. A woman, winning the presidency, a South Asian, somebody who is half South Asian, someone who is half Black, someone who is a child of immigrants, Barack covered a bunch of that stuff. But, this is a big deal. And objectively, I'm like, wow, okay, cool. At the same time, would I feel so much better if it was somebody else with a different platform, something that was actually progressive, something that could be meaningful? Sure. That's what I want. I want to be excited. A lot of people are excited. I'm trying to figure out what they're excited for because we don't have we don't have a platform. We don't have policy papers. We don't have anything other than we're going to work on, we're going to encourage, we're going to do that. We don't have any of that. So I'm trying to understand what people are excited about other than the identity politics. And then again, somebody said something about single issue voters. I said most people are single issue voters and their single issue is likability and relatability. All of this other stuff doesn't actually matter when it comes to voting. Most people vote for the person they can relate to the most. Policies be damned. And so that's why there are so many people that are angry with me because I say I'm not voting for her. And they're like, you're the first person who should be voting for her. You are a Black woman. You should, every single one of you should be. And I'm like, that's not how this works. But yeah, y'all, I appreciate you being here. We are going to do this. Again, there's going to be some speeches coming up. I'll be tapping in on those. Thank you for joining. Thank you to everybody who has supported me, with this, has sent me, some people send me like $2 on Cash App, $5 on Venmo. I'm trust and believe. I appreciate all of that. I do, and I love you for that. The best way that you could support me would be to subscribe to my Patreon, and that is patreon.com/Feminista Jones, because it is the best way that you can give consistent help. Okay, as low as $1 a month, and if you sign up in advance, it's $10.44 for the whole year. And I do produce a lot of content, but the Patreon subscriptions also kind of support when I do stuff like this and, other things that I'm doing. So that is a consistent way. A lot of people will be like, oh, I don't really have $20 right now. And I get it. But that $1 a month, and you think that it's not enough, but trust me, if I had 900 people giving me $1 a month, that's $900, So I definitely appreciate that. So patreon.com/Feminista Jones. You can go and subscribe there. I'm trying to reach my goal of 1,000 paid members. I think I have like maybe 500. So I'm trying to get to like 1,000 paid members by the end of the year. So if you could support that, that's great. Or you can subscribe to me on Instagram. Some of you do subscribe on Instagram. I believe it's $2.99 a month. That is also consistent, low level like support that amounts to a lot. So thank you. Trust me when I say like, they'll be like, hey, you got, your stuff from your subscribers. And that is really, really nice. It's really supportive. So I appreciate you all. Then there's always the badges when I do these lives and you all buy badges. That is greatly appreciated when I'm on YouTube and you guys send the Cash Apps and the Venmos and the PayPals. I love that too. I appreciate you so much. So we'll be seeing each other before September 10th, but the next major live watch event is going to be that presidential debate. This is where you want to be. Mark your calendars, put it in. Hit that notify button, subscribe to my YouTube, please. I'm trying to get my subscriber numbers up and trying to get the out. I want to monetize my YouTube. That'd be great. So you all could help with that. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Take care. See you soon.